Okay, so at this point, we are almost done. We are on the final quadrant, quadrant number 4, the program materials quadrant. So if you click that, you will need to click a couple of times to get into it. And it's its own little mini section. So it's going to have some instructions about what the program is and what you'll need. Our requirements for program documents are fourfold. Firstly is your most up-to-date resume, then 2 letters of recommendation, though there's always another way to do this, and that's through an evaluations tab up here. I will talk about that in a bit. Then unofficial copies of transcripts, and then a statement of purpose. The important thing to note about transcripts is even though you can provide us unofficials from whichever institution you've attended, and that it could be literally every institution that you attend, you will need to supply official copies sealed from the university to the Office of Admissions. This is critical for those with foreign documents. It's common for folks to maybe have gone to school here in another program, so they don't feel the need to include even foreign study or foreign credits. Really important that any college anywhere in the world that you've attended, you provide official copies of those transcripts to the Office of Admissions, though we as a program will take unofficial copies of anything. And then lastly, your statement of purpose would be essentially detailing in roughly 1,000 to 2,000 words why you want to be in the program, what you'll get out of the program, and what you as the student will provide back to the program. Since this is a program that's very heavily focused on cohort-based activities, it's good to know what skill sets you're bringing into the program. Okay, so I've alluded a lot to some of the foreign credit situations. If that's going to be relevant to you, go ahead and read this international student instructions. It will tell you what you would need to do in that case. I'm going to skip that for now since a majority of our applicants do not have foreign credits. If you do have foreign credits, I would also probably recommend calling me or emailing me so that we can discuss your case on a more case-by-case basis. Okay, so to get really started into the section, you want to click on the Documents tab, which is the second one over. And then it will show you essentially what is required. So once again, we require a resume, we require a personal statement. So you can just add whatever your document may be. I'm going to just add any old file that I have here on mine. So I'm just going to add the handbook for the sake of doing this. And then you would upload this document. And depending on how quick your computer is, then that will show as received in here. Okay, and you would do that for all of these. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to watch me upload the handbook here 4 times just so I can move through the section correctly. Really, we have no preference of what document types you use. I think it's easiest if you use either a Word doc or a PDF. But if you use OpenOffice or some other form of Office software, that's completely fine. Now you'll see that's actually the only 2 that would technically keep you from being able to move on to the next section. Don't skip over though, including your unofficial transcripts at the bottom. That's really, really critical. There's really no place in here to include letters of recommendation if you have them like personally on hand. So feel free to include that under an unofficial transcript as an additional document. I can find it from there and get it to the right place because most people, well, maybe not most people, but some people would prefer to go through this evaluation box. This is if you don't have a letter of recommendation on file and your recommender would prefer to do it maybe more privately versus just giving you the letter. You would then add them as an evaluator in here. Unfortunately, regardless of if you have a letter on file, still include an evaluator information for every single letter because this is going to keep you from being able to fill out that section. So let's say my dad was going to recommend me, then we would go ahead and have him basically fill this out. I'm going to not have him get an email from me though, so I'm going to put in my own email. This email will get sent a notification to fill out a recommendation form. If you do not want them to fill out a recommendation form, just let them know that they don't need to do this. If they've already given you kind of a hard copy of a letter, but if they want to do it and give you a letter, totally fine. If they would prefer to do our evaluation versus write a letter for you, this is a way for them to do so. So you can give them a due date. It's not hard and fast. It's not going to do anything. You may want to include in the personal message what they're getting. So I would usually recommend, I am applying to the CSUMB MIST graduate program. This is the program's recommendation form. I'm going to misspell recommendation form that I need for my application. So anything obviously will work here, but something, a short, quick message. They'll get an email telling them basically what their next steps are going to be. Essentially, they're going to have to fill out a very short recommendation form, nothing too crazy. And then in here, waiver of evaluation, you can either waive your right to be able to see their evaluation or not. I would just recommend waiving it. If there was a case where your evaluation was not strong from that person, we would contact you for maybe an individual interview to check in as to why maybe that recommendation wasn't a strong one. And we wouldn't release their rights or release your rights, but we would follow up in a way that wouldn't hurt you just because you received a bad recommendation. Okay. Then you can also give us permission to contact the reference or the school to contact the reference. I would personally prefer you click both. You'll have to. There, I think technically is a workaround, but for your own circumstances, I just recommend clicking both. Okay. So that will save that evaluation request. And you'd have to do it a second time. So unfortunately, you're going to have to quickly watch me do it a second time. So I'm going to include, now my mom's going to recommend me. So luckily my parents are thinking I'm doing good. Okay. So, okay. Now, a question I get also about this too is, which one would we prefer? I don't mind if you have a formal letter of recommendation or if they fill out this recommendation form. The form is going to be kind of like this, where you're clicking boxes and rating. You would receive a rating from your recommender, essentially rating you on a 1 to 5 scale on some different categories such as responsibility, academic skills, things of that nature. So both will serve our needs. Okay. So once again, once you've filled out both of these, it will show it as completed. So you'll get your green check mark up here, which is what you're looking for. And then you'll want to click on the questions box. Regardless on if you are or are not an international student, you'll just want to go ahead and include whatever response that might be. If you're an international student, include your name. If you're not, you can just save it blank and that will work too. And then this way you'll have all 3 things completed. So once you've done that, you are now, as you can see, this application would be complete and be ready to be submitted. What you would then do is obviously hit the submit application button and then submit it and pay for it. And by doing those 2 things, you would then have a completed application. In the future, if you want to see the status of your application, for now, obviously it shows that it's in progress. Once I complete it, it will show complete. And then depending on our admissions decision, I will email you an admissions decision, but it will also show up in here as either admitted or declined. And that way, if maybe my email goes to your spam box and you don't see it, you can check in on your application up here in this application status box. So I hope you found that helpful for your application. If you ever have questions or concerns, you can email me at reller@csumb.edu, or you can call my office line Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m. at area code 831-582-4790. We look forward to your applications, and we will see you soon. Take care.